if you really need to react very quickly.
Do you have that capability now?
Well, we are at the fringe of getting that capability, so maybe at the end of this year we can demonstrate that capability.
That's great.
It's coming.
Yeah, that's great.
So now we are.
You mentioned before that the user can also set the level of sensitivity.
Yeah. Well, that depends on actually the EHR system developer can put there a button where you can select that you only take the importance, or you take the intermediate, or you also take the reminders with less importance. So there are 3 levels at the moment, and I think none of the vendors has totally omitted the reminders in the least important categories, but they show them at the end of the list, so that they show the important reminders with different colors or some exclamation mark in the beginning, and then the less important reminders at the end of the reminder list. If you are busy, you only look at the red colors and not the others. Okay, we also touched this question, how to get all the data for the patient from different providers. And here are some possible solutions. In Finland, one popular solution has already been for several years that there is a regional EHR, so that the primary care and the hospital records are actually one record. This is one solution. I think even a better solution is what Estonia already did, and Finland is doing from 2014, that all patient records will be in one national repository. Of course, that could be a regional repository, but anyway, in one repository, so that each patient would only have one medication list, one problem list, and one care plan. This is what we hope to accomplish in Finland. Then we have this health information exchange activities, and I think the Obama legislation, the meaningful use in the US, it's a very clever legislation, and it requires that the CCR, continuity of care record, should be produced by the EHR applications, and they are in the same format so that the data can be changed or viewed from other systems, so that's an excellent document. Then also quite a good solution is the PHR. You give all the data to the patient, and one of the solutions is the Microsoft Health Vault, which can already collect data from many different EHR vendor systems. And then it's the patient who has all the data, and if the patient gives his or her physician access to that data, so it means that the physician can also have all the decision support based on that data. That's quite a good model, especially if you would have legal problems in putting everything in one place. And then there is sort of intermediate solutions, that there is a national locator or master patient index for all patients, and then you can view the data, but it may be a little bit more difficult than to give decision support, but I think it's possible. Sweden is a country which may do it in that way. And I think the Danish solution with a quality statistics server could do the same.
No, we can't do it with the secondary health system, and I think it will be difficult because since in Denmark we have made secondary healthcare systems electronic record with electronic systems, and they don't even work well together with each other. So still on the hospital side, it will take some time.
Okay.
In the Netherlands, just last week, our first chamber, Parliament blocked the further development of a national EPD, electronic patient chart, because of the privacy problems. So they wanted to develop a large electronic medical chart which could be entered by all healthcare givers, but because then the consequence was that around 50 or 60,000 people could enter a patient record, then we really could get privacy problems. What is your solution to that? Because I saw there are quite some countries which have large systems, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a long discussion, and in Finland it has been a long discussion also whether you can put the data in one place. And the first legislation for some years ago was that for every single piece of data you have to ask for permission, or the patient must give explicit permission. But now, at the end of last year, the legislation was changed, and that was actually political consensus that it's only by denial, so that everything will go there. The patient only gives once the permission to put the data, and then the data will be put there prospectively. But if the patient denies that I don't want, for instance, data from the hospital to be put in the registry to this repository, then it will be not. But that must be active.
And is it only accessible by your own GP or your own family doctor, or is it accessible anywhere?
It is accessible for everybody who is treating the patient, but you must be treating the patient, and the log files on who is accessing the data is available also to the patient, so the patient can see who has been looking at my data, and if it's somebody who is not allowed to, so the patient can sue, why did you look at my data? So I think that's...
So I'm going to try to pull up here while we're visiting. I live in a community of about 500,000 people. There are 3 hospitals and about 3,500 doctors. And even though in the United States there are all these different electronic record vendors, in our community, because one of the largest in the United States is headquartered there, it's called EQuiP. All the hospitals and all the doctors are on EQuiP. Now they're technically different legal entities, but we have this thing called Care Everywhere that allows you a portal into each of the systems, and the patient has to give permission for you to do that. But you can, I'll show you. I can show you patient. I can show you the hospital data. I can show you the. So in my own university system, when the specialist orders a test, it shows up in my box. In fact, I get an alert that it's come in.
Okay.
So it works pretty well, actually.
In Finland, we have also asked patients whether you would like to have a system like this. And it's about 99% of Finnish patients who say that, yes, I want that all my care providers have all my data. When they have the possibility to deny if they want something.
Patients think we already have.
Yeah, but I know that this may be very different in other countries, and I know that I think the average has been that about 60% of patients say that I want to have my data, and 40% say that I don't want to have my data. So it depends on the culture in the country and how much you trust your care providers.
But the funny thing was, in the Netherlands, the vast majority of potential patients thought the same as the Danish. But if we asked the doctors, then about 70% of the doctors did not want a national patient chart for its own. There's about 65% of the doctors sent a mail that they would not allow others to look at their files. So that was interesting, and that gave a lot of discussion.
Quite interesting.
Yes.
I think that
so the people who work with it don't trust it, and the people who don't work with it, they think, well, sure.
Don't you think the reason might be a different one? I mean, I think we have a very similar discussion in Austria, and the insurance companies, the public health insurance and the government, they want the central data patient record, and the doctors don't want it because and they say, well, it's because of privacy, but I think the true reason is because they don't want it to be controllable, because it's very easy it's a lot easier to control the doctor side, and that's what they're afraid of. So I don't think it's the privacy issue. I wonder whether it is really necessary to have a central patient record to do this. I don't think you need to. I mean, you could have if you have a GP centralized, it's more difficult in systems that are not GP centered. Like in the US, it's probably very difficult. But if you have a GP, a list system, and you are, as a patient, registered with your GP, and you trust your GP, and all your data is at the GP's, on the GP's computer, and he can use the decision support, everything with the data just being on the GP's computer. And if this patient moves to a different place, you just put in a little USB stick and you take all the data out. I think that the problem is if we don't have a standard format of data, then that makes it different.
So Taiwan has done this. It all gets embedded into a chip on a smart card, and it's a standard computer language anywhere in the country. A guy named Bill Shao, who's from Taiwan, but an economist at Harvard, helped him set this up. And you go anywhere on the island, and you just hand your smart card over, and the doctor plugs it in as a reader. And it doesn't matter if it's a hospital, emergency department, physiotherapist, it works everywhere. It's all of your information.
And the patient decides who he wants to smart card.
What is it?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm trying to remember what they do about that. I think each of the records back up at the local clinician's office in that person's computer. But I don't know if there's a way for that to all get back to the patient if they want to make a new card. I don't remember what the answer to that is. But in general, I think they've been very pleased with it. Both the doctors and the patients feel like it's given them what they need. And it's kind of along the lines of what Ilkka was talking about, the personal health record.
I think the smart card and the personal health record on the web, they are actually the same solution with different technology.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to be cloud computing someday.
Exactly. It will be on the cloud when you just believe it is safe. So just something about the standardization and certification. So there must be national coding standards. I think they are developed in most countries. But then I think a very clever idea is the certification of electronic health records. If you require certain characteristics, for instance, producing this CCR document, this is effective. In the USA, the meaningful use gives up to $63,000 in the course of 6 years to every physician who uses a system which is capable of doing good things, so which is certified. Also in Belgium, there is support for systems that are certified. They can send the data to the insurance, but I think also this sort of info button or link to guideline button was compulsory for all systems which were certified. So it is possible to make the certification requirements such that, for instance, decision support is made possible by the system. And if you give the money directly to the user and not to the vendor, so this is a good way because the vendors have to compete. And if I understood right, so in Belgium, though, actually the GPs don't pay much of the system for themselves. The subsidies from the insurance, actually they cover most of the costs of the EHR. Is that true?
Yes, but what is the problem now? That is that we have in Belgium, it's a little number of GPs.
Yeah.
So we have 17 different vendors and systems, and at this moment only 5 had got the certification, and the other had to do their exam again. And we said perhaps it was better all the money they give to the GPs to buy a certificate software. Perhaps it's better to put it into a good software that can do all those things. Because my software is, at this moment, 2011, it is certificate, but in 2012, when it continues this way, it is not certificate, and we are just in this system. But perhaps my software will not be suitable to all of these things we are thinking about.